So I want to start with a little bit of an origin story. I was living in Singapore working for a company called Air Carbon. We built a carbon trading exchange on chain about three and a half years ago. And I was in the back of a taxi. In Singapore, taxi would be called a Grab taxi instead of an Uber. And we were playing a Chinese zodiac game where you collect the Chinese zodiacs. And if you get all of them, you get a prize, a discount for your next ride, or a shake at McDonald's or something like that. And I thought to myself, why are we doing this with Chinese zodiacs when we could be doing it with sustainable development goals? And in the process of doing it with sustainable development goals, the rider who's playing with the app, the taxi app in the back seat, can learn about the brand and the types of carbon offsets that are available to make your trip carbon neutral, and learn about the sustainable development goals. What is life on land? What is life underwater? What is gender equality? And how does that brand choose carbon projects to offer you? And how does that relate to their brand promise? And it seemed like a much better way to educate people about SDGs and carbon offsetting in a game type of environment. And so I went and pitched Grab Taxi to buy carbon offsets through the Air Carbon Exchange. They did eventually do that, but they didn't gamify it the way that I had hoped that they would. And so I looked at the market and I said, the problem here, obviously everyone talks about transparency. I'll come back to that in a second. But what about the emotional connection? And does that emotional connection allow for a long-term relationship, a long-term engagement with the brand? Or is it just point of sale, check out, I'm going to buy some carbon and move on? And we wanted to address that by making it fun and engaging, and at the same time, make it clearly impactful. And one of the things that everybody talks here about is transparency. And I don't think transparency is delivered by the blockchain. I think the blockchain is as good at obfuscation as it is at transparency. It's really about user interface. How do you design a user interface that will give your consumers a level of trust around what you're doing? And so to that end, we started building carbon offsets that were in NFTs, that were based on endangered animals, that had corporate brands on the back. And that was really the genesis. This isn't going as fast as I thought it would. There we go. So there's a whole series of different kind of NFTs like this that we do that engage the brand and engage the customers. I guess it won't. There we go. Oh. We got a lot of delay here. So I heard earlier today someone ask, how do we get to scale? How do we get all the consumers in the world to be involved in the carbon offsetting project? And that's really what we do. We try and make it so that we can take all of the customers of the brands and use them to get them engaged on climate change. We can't do it any other way. We've got to engage the brands. Brands are interested in Gen Z as a demographic and millennials, and those guys are very interested in addressing climate change and sustainability. So going through the brands was critical. And we know that lots of brands are using NFTs in their loyalty programs, so we wanted to take that and upgrade it with carbon offsets. Afraid I do this too many times, and we may need new batteries here. Oh, there we go. So did I skip a slide? I apologize, guys. I'm having a little trouble keeping this thing moving on. So we took carbon and fractionalized it down to 1 kilogram. With 1 kilogram, you're able to do a cup of coffee, or you could do a flight from London to New York with over a ton. But the key is you can't put an environmental beneficiary into any of the carbon registries at less than 1 ton. And to work where most of the carbon offsets were, we needed to do that. And NFTs represent a really perfect technology, unlike their ability to provide transparency, which they don't. That's user interface. They do provide a cryptographic proof of fractionalization. They're great at fractionalizing assets. We create collections that could be 1 ton, and then every one of the 1,000 NFTs in the collection would be 1 kilogram. And by making it fun and engaging, we can help brands build brand reputation. And here's the key. You got to make it easy. If you're going to work with the brand's customers, you can't use a whole lot of jargon. And as an example, Starbucks isn't even using NFTs for jargon. They call it journey stamps. You can't require a crypto wallet. You got to be able to pay with a credit card. You've got to be able to log in with your email address or whatever it is that your loyalty program is. And you got to make it something that everyone can do. And it should be integrated into your website, into your point of sale, into your app. All of that can be done. And honestly, most of our platform is Web 2. There's already been enough talk here about what carbon offsets are, but I do just want to address the transparency issue again. When it comes to brands, consumers, what matters is that they can easily understand what the carbon offsets are. And these are some of the things that we need to educate people on. What does it mean to have different kinds of projects? What is permanence and durability? These are concepts that the average person can understand. And through NFTs and through collecting and through brand engagement, we can teach them about all of these things. And how does the MRV data come in? How can you get satellite data, time-lapse data that's interesting and engaging for customers that really shows them what's happening in the projects that you're tokenizing over time? So make it easy. And oh, there we go. And our platform provides transparency through user interface. So we provide really clear certificates. We've been providing carbon offset certificates for the last 8 years, so we understand how to connect them up to the registry so people can see them. But we're upgrading the standard PDFs that used to be sent out for 1 ton into NFTs. So NFTs really become a retirement certificate as much as anything else. And we just talked about why Web3. Well, everyone's got a different idea. But I think it has to do with developing community as much as anything else. Because blockchain is just a database. And you can use MySQL, or you can use Polygon, or you can use Selva, or Topol. It doesn't matter. And carbon is about a global set of people interacting, buyers, sellers, carbon projects, validators. They're all over the world. They're trustless. And we need to be able to develop a user interface that shows where the money is going in a really simple, transparent way. Again, transparency is about communication, and how do you get all of that into a place that a Gen Z or a millennial is going to want to use your product over another product because you've provided carbon offsetting and done it in a way that's transparent. So we do offsets at point of sale. And if anyone would like to talk, we're available to talk about that. And then here's the last thing is, here we are in Colombia, and I'd like all of your help in supporting a really amazing carbon offset project in Cartagena, Colombia. It's an urban mangrove restoration project. It's very small. It's so small, in fact, that it can't really be tokenized into tons of carbon. But they're trying to raise enough money through Fundación Grupo Social to be able to do a carbon baseline. We want to get all the local companies in the tourism industry involved because the carbon is right there. So if you can help us at the Cartagena Turtles DAO to raise some capital to give to this foundation so that they can get started on their carbon offset journey and we can start engaging the local businesses, I encourage you to do that. We're also giving away free mangrove seedling NFTs. So if you want one of those, we've got a whole stack of QR codes that you could take. That is it. If you want to reach me, here I am. And any questions, happy to take.